Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm, as always, really excited to have you guys here tonight. We are making creamy Tuscan chicken thighs tonight, and I think it's a recipe you guys are really gonna love. First of all, it's delicious, which is the most important with any recipe, but it's really simple and it's kind of like a one-pot meal. So you can really make it, and my favorite thing always is a nice, easy cleanup. So what we're gonna get started with today is we're gonna get our chicken into our frying pan. So always keep any meat in the refrigerator right until you need it. Because I'm using a little cast iron pan, I am actually going to turn the heat on now because it just takes a minute to warm up. We're going to turn it to about medium-high heat. We don't want it too high, we don't want to burn the chicken, but we want it high enough that we can really crisp it up. Now our recipe calls for about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan, but be generous with it. You really want to coat the entire bottom of this pan. As we are cooking the chicken, the olive oil is going to really get in that chicken skin and crisp it up. So you want to make sure that anywhere that there is chicken hitting the pan, that there's olive oil on it. So it may be a little more than 2 tablespoons, but that's okay. I think I need a little quicker pour for this, guys. Comes out pretty slow. That's okay. All right, we'll let that guy heat up for us. Okay, so now we're gonna come back to our chicken. Our chicken that we're using is bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. If you really hate chicken thighs, you could use a chicken breast, but you're gonna have to cook the chicken a little bit longer. If you really are just appalled by chicken skin, you can do boneless chicken thighs. You're just not gonna get the same depth of flavor that the fat from the chicken skin is gonna give us. So we're gonna start off with very liberally salting and peppering our chicken. Whenever we're gonna cook meat, we wanna really give it a good seasoning to start with so that it has a good flavor in the meat as well as the sauce that we're putting on it. So just don't be shy with your salt. If you are watching your blood pressure and salt intake, still do a little bit, but just a little bit. You don't ever wanna cook meat without any salt and pepper in it. We're going to flip these guys over, and we're going to do the other side as well. Now, if you have any pieces that are kind of like folded in, make sure you unfold them so that you can get the salt and pepper into all of the chicken. And I actually am going to wash my hands before I touch my salt and pepper shakers again because we don't want to spread down milk. There we go. Okay. And nice salt and pepper on this side as well. There we go. So like I said, if you want to use a different type of chicken cut, you can. You just have to make sure that you cook it for long enough or short enough, whatever it may be. When it comes to chicken thighs, these are really great for this recipe because the skin, like I said, is going to give us a lot of depth of flavor. And because chicken thighs consist of more of that dark meat of chicken, again, we're getting more flavor with our dish. All right. So we're going to come over here. We are going to check out our pan. So we want the pan to be really hot. We want to really get a nice sear on this chicken skin before we start to cook it. So what I like to do to check is to just take a little bit of pepper, pop it in the pan. If it starts to like boil up, then we know it's hot enough. These guys probably just need another minute. So while we're waiting for this to heat up just another couple of degrees, I am going to do a little selfless plug here. I own a company called Green Banana Well Packs, and we are an ailment-specific gift company. You can order online, and we will ship a box full of really healthy, well-made, handmade goodies to somebody you love for whatever they have going on, whether they have a cold and flu, chronic illness, they just had a baby, whether they lost someone. And A, it's an awesome company, you should check it out anyway. But B, we are actually doing a promotion right now where when you buy a well pack, we are actually going to donate a pack to our essential healthcare heroes at Ocean Medical Center in Brick, New Jersey, which if you are from this area, I'm sure you're familiar with it. But if you're not from this area, that's our local hospital, and they've been doing a wonderful job. So if you have a chance, check out Green Banana Well Packs on Facebook, Instagram, or our website, greenbananawellpacks.com, and consider sending a well pack to someone you love so that it can help thank our healthcare workers at Ocean Medical Center. All right? All right, I think this guy is just about hot enough for us now. Yeah, they're boiling up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our chicken, we're gonna go skin side down, just like this. There you go. You hear that nice sizzle? That's what we want. We want a good sizzle from our chicken. Pan's almost not big enough. There you go. All right, so that's gonna cook for a minute. I'm gonna wash my hands. We just touched our chicken. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cook that chicken for about 7 minutes inside down. Now we start with the skin side because we want to get it really crispy, and all the fat that renders off of that chicken skin is going to allow us to cook the other side of the chicken in that fat so everything has that taste together. Now if you're like me and you seem to lose track of time, totally fine. Just set yourself a little timer for about 7 minutes and we can check on it again. Now while we are letting those guys cook, we are going to set up for our sauce. Now this sauce is a Tuscan-based sauce, and what makes it Tuscan is that it's olive oil based. So more Tuscan type ingredients are an olive oil based sauce, some tomatoes, spinach, those really traditional Italian ingredients, but without any heavy cream or cheeses. So a real Tuscan chicken wouldn't have the cream that we're going to add into it. It's just going to have a tomato, spinach, basil base. However, we're going to add a little cream just to make it a little more decadent because why not, right? All right, so we are going to start. The first thing that we're going to need is, first thing we're going to need is 3 cloves of garlic and a shallot. Now, I forgot to get a shallot when I went food shopping this week, so, which is not the end of the world. So we can use an onion instead. Onions and shallots can be interchanged. If you have a really developed palate, you're gonna notice the difference. But really, you can make anything that calls for a shallot, you can use an onion as well. So that's what we're gonna do today. One of the great things about Tuscan style recipes is that you can really switch a lot of things out because they're really basic. They have those really basic flavor profiles. So there's a couple of things that we're going to do in our recipe today that are different than the written recipe just because it's what I had on hand. So we're going to chop up this garlic really nice and small. It's going to be the base of our sauce, garlic and onion, as everything good should be. There we go. Now I know that this might be hard for some of you to ignore the chicken in the pot. But if we let it sit the way that it is, the chicken skin's gonna cook a lot better than if we keep playing with it. So we can hear it in the background, but we know it's cooking and it's totally fine. So when we want to use a shallot's about the size of a really small onion. This is a little bit bigger than a shallot size that we would use. So we're gonna use maybe about 2/3 of this onion. And we're just gonna dice it up really well. Okay, you know what, we're actually going to end up taking a couple of layers off of this onion because it's a little overripe. That's okay though, better to have less onion and not have any goat skin. Alright. Betty's here to join us. Okay, so we're going to dice this guy up just into nice little pieces. In this sauce, our garlic and onion are for flavoring, not really for texture or mouthfeel. So that's why we want to have them in such a small little bits and pieces. And the smaller they are, the smaller they'll cook, the quicker they'll cook down, and the easier it will be to get our sauce going. Put this guy aside. So when I cook, I like to put everything into bowls with the time it's going to be added. So the garlic and onion on this recipe are going to be added together. So they're going to go in the same bowl. The next grouping of ingredients are also going to go in the same bowl because we're going to add them in at the same time too. So we're going to use some spinach. I like to use fresh spinach for this. It has a sweetness, it has a texture to it. We're going to use about 2 good handfuls. I guess you could say that's about 2 cups, but give or take a little bit. We're just going to lightly chop it so we don't have these huge pieces of spinach. Put it back in our bowl. Next, we're going to do some nice fresh cherry grape tomatoes. Whatever you have on hand is totally fine. They have a really nice sweetness and a nice bite to them. These are going to go in towards the end of our recipe. So they're going to get to keep that nice crunch, that nice bite on the outside, and that good acidity that we have. We're going to use about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of these tomatoes, and we're just going to pop them right in this bowl, like I said. When we're prepared, when we go to the stove, the cooking goes a lot easier. Okay. One more for good measure. Okay. The next ingredient we're going to use is roasted red peppers. Now, when I usually make this, I use sun-dried tomatoes, but apparently the sun-dried tomato supply line is failing because I could not really find them anywhere. So these roasted red peppers are going to be a really good addition. When you're making a recipe like this, think about the flavor, think about the ingredients, and you can just replace them. Okay. So these guys are already kind of cut up for me, so I'm just going to slice them a little smaller, and they're going to go in here. Now, if you're from the area, and you go to the Brick Farmers Market over at Windward Beach, the sun-dried tomatoes from the people who do the pickles and the olives, they have a big stand, are probably the best sun-dried tomatoes in the entire world. And I really hope that we can get them because the place that does them are from North Jersey, and I don't know if we're having a farmer's market. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we can get the best sun-dried tomatoes in the world again because they're amazing. Okay. Okay, so these are our 3 ingredients that are going to go in towards the end. Next, we are going to get a few things prepared for our sauce. We are going to use about 1/4 cup of a dry white wine. Remember what we talked about when we're making the bolognese sauce? You never want to cook with a wine that you won't drink. All right. So we just heard our buzzer go off. We're going to go check on these chicken thighs. And we're going to give them a nice little flip. You can see they're nice and golden brown. That's what we're looking for. Always be careful when you're by a pan with oil. You don't want to get burned. Oh no, we lost our chicken skin on this, guys. That is all right. We're just going to place them right back on top. Okay. All right, so we're going to let these guys cook for about another 7 minutes, just until they are mostly cooked through. Now, the bigger the chicken thigh you have, the longer it's going to take. The smaller the chicken thigh you have, the shorter it's going to take. So if you have a meat thermometer, definitely check those guys. You're going to want them to cook to about 160 degrees. If you're new to cooking meat or new to cooking at home in general, a meat thermometer is really great to have on hand. After you do it, you get used to what meat, chicken, beef, pork looks like when it's done. You're going to get used to the feel of it, and that's how you can start to cook without a meat thermometer. So the first couple times you do it, use a meat thermometer, and then after you know it's done, look at the color, look at the texture, look at the fluids running clear. That's how you know that it's done. But to start with, definitely use a meat thermometer, and you always want to cook any chicken to 160 degrees all the way through. Okay? So, we are getting back to our sauce. We're going to use, like I said, about a quarter cup of a nice dry wine. I say nice because we always want to use a wine that we would be willing to drink. Next, we're going to do some chicken broth. We're cooking with chicken, so it's always appropriate to use chicken broth. If you want to use veggie broth, you absolutely could. Definitely don't use beef broth. It's going to totally mess this guy up. And we're going to use about half a cup, not too much. Just enough to kind of bring out that chicken flavor. And then we're going to use some coconut milk. Now, I use coconut milk because, like I said, we're a dairy-free house. We don't use regular milk in the house because I'm lactose intolerant. But if you wanted to use a heavy cream, you absolutely could. Even a whole milk, it's totally fine. Now, when I say coconut milk, I always mean the coconut milk in the can. It has a higher fat content, so it's going to act closer to a heavy cream than would the coconut milk you're going to get in a carton from the dairy section that you would use in, say, your cereal or when you're making pancakes. So definitely use this full-fat coconut milk. We're going to make sure we stir it up. When we open coconut milk in the can, we have the fat on top and the liquid underneath. We want to get a little bit of everything. So I always open it, stir it up really good, make sure there's no big, huge chunks. Try not to spill it all out of the can. And we're going to pour in about a cup and a half. A can this size usually has about 2 cups of liquid in it. So we're not going to use quite the whole thing. We're going to use about a cup and a half. All right, so these guys are going to go in together. Okay. Last but not least. All right. Last but not least, we're going to cut up some basil. And the basil is going to go on very last. It's going to be our garnish. But I want it to be ready for when we are done. So remember our basil trick. We're going to pile all these guys on top of each other and give it a nice little ribbon chop. Okay. I don't know what Betty's doing, but she's causing all sorts of havoc off the camera right now, guys. I think she's protesting that she's not getting any treats. She'll survive. Okay. Alright, so we have everything ready to go for our sauce. Our chicken should be just about getting ready. So come on over, we'll take a nice little peek at it and see what we got going on. So, as we can see, we have all of these juices and fats running off. This is the base of our sauce. So when we take the chicken out, we do not want to dump this out. We're going to take the chicken out a little, one piece at a time. So when we're checking to see if the chicken's done, we're definitely going to check the bottom to see if it's pink. It's not. That's a good thing. And we're going to feel it. Is it squishy? Does it have a good... I think these guys are going to need another couple minutes. These are some pretty big chicken breasts, or chicken thighs, excuse me. So we're going to let these guys cook another minute or two. So while they're finishing, we're going to take all of our ingredients that we put into our bowls ready to go to get started. Okay, can't forget the wine. Alright. So if you wanted to do this recipe and you are vegetarian, you could absolutely fry up some eggplant in here and make this sauce with veggie broth instead of chicken stock. That would be a really delicious, delicious vegetarian meal. If you wanted to make this with shrimp, you totally could. Cook up your shrimp with a little bit of seafood stock or veggie stock, and then finish it the exact same way that we're doing it here. You could even do it with a really big salmon, nice cut of fish, because everything that you're going to cook in this pan is going to make that one sauce. So if you like the taste of shrimp, cook the shrimp in there and you use this all together. I wouldn't really recommend this so much with beef or pork. It just doesn't go as well. But any vegetable, chicken, or fish, you absolutely can do together. All right, these guys are looking just about done. Now these are going to rest. So if they're just a little underdone right now, that's okay, because the internal temperature is going to continue to cook them. So you're going to want to grab a nice shallow dish and place your chicken breast skin side up in the shallow dish. This is going to allow any extra fat to drip off the chicken, and also it's going to allow our chicken skin to stay nice and crispy. If we're gonna have chicken, if you're gonna have a chicken skin, you want it to be cooked well through and be nice and crispy. There's really nothing worse than soggy chicken skin. And like I said, you're gonna have all sorts of pieces stuck to the pan. That's okay, we're gonna use that for the sauce. Now, we wanted to keep these warm, but we don't want the chicken skin to get less crispy, right? So we're gonna take a nice piece of aluminum foil and just lightly cover it. Lightly covering means that we're gonna pull it down, but we're not gonna totally seal it. We don't wanna keep steaming them, which is what's gonna happen if we do that. Okay, so we are gonna put these guys over here. Let's get started with this sauce. So we have this nice hot pan filled with all of our juices from the chicken. We're gonna take our garlic and onion and pop it right into this pan. And let these guys cook up for about 2 minutes, just as we normally would with any garlic and onion base, to the point where they're fragrant and translucent. Now this pan's already pretty hot, so you want to be here stirring it. Try not to walk away. If you do walk away, what's going to happen is your garlic's going to start to burn. It's going to have a little bit more of that bitter taste. And this sauce, we're looking for that sweet, developed garlic taste. So you're always going to want to use a wooden spoon when you're doing this. If you're using a rubber spatula, if you have a cast iron pan, the spatula can melt against the pan. If you're using a metal spoon, it's going to scratch the bejesus out of your pan. So wooden spoons are really going to be the best thing for you to use. Always check to make sure your wooden spoon has no splinters, and make sure that there's no like leftover food kind of soaking into any splinters or breaks in the spoon. But generally, they will stay seasoned and be a really great thing to use in the kitchen. So as you can see, these guys are starting to become a little translucent, excuse me. And if you were here, you could start to really smell them, smell the fragrance that they have going on. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add in our white wine. Now what our white wine is going to do is it's going to help us deglaze the pan. All these little bits that are stuck to the bottom of the pan, this white wine is going to help pull off the bottom of the pan. Good. Now whenever you are cooking with wine, you always want to make sure you cook it for at least a couple of minutes so that you cook off that really tough alcohol bite. When we're drinking a glass of alcohol, it's okay that it has a bite. But if we're cooking with it, we're not looking for that alcohol bite most of the time. We're looking for the underlying flavor of the wine or the brandy or whatever it is we're using. Now, all of these little pieces are really coming off the pan really well, which is nice because it'll make it easier to clean later. But again, all of those pieces are going to help flavor this sauce. So we're just going to scrape it a few times, make sure we got everything off. Now when you're cooking alcohol and you want to know, is it burned off enough? Just smell it. If you smell your pan and a big burst of white wine slaps you in the face, it's not cooked off enough. But if you start to smell your pan and you start to smell a sweetness that has a hint of white wine to it, then you can move on. Okay. So our next addition is going to be our chicken stock and our coconut milk or heavy cream, whatever it is that you choose to use. There we go. And we're going to want to mix this in together. Now this is not a thick sauce. We didn't do a roux like we made our gravy. We didn't add any butter that would help thicken it, and that's okay. Like I said, Tuscan is more of that light, simple flavors. And we're just going to cook this till it gets hot. The chicken stock and the coconut milk, they don't really need to cook down that much. We just want to get them nice and hot because our next step is going to be adding in those vegetables at the end. So we're going to let that cook. I'm going to clean up my workstation so everything's out of my way. There we go. Okay. There we go. Looking like it's warming up really well. don't want to bring this to a boil. We just want to make sure that it's hot. So we can feel the heat coming off of it. That means we're good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. That's our spinach, our tomatoes, and today our roasted red peppers. Now remember, the roasted red peppers are a substitute for sun-dried tomatoes, but an awesome substitute. So we're going to take these and just drop them in. And the idea at this point is not to cook everything down, but to just get everything wilted and incorporated. Remember, we want a nice fresh sauce, not so much a soup or a stew. Go. So once the spinach starts to wilt down, if you're using baby spinach, it's going to wilt a lot quicker. This is full spinach, full grown spinach, so it has a tougher cellulose layer to it, so it's going to take an extra minute to cook down. If you're putting baby spinach in, as soon as you put that stuff in there, it's going to melt right away. Totally fine, but you'll probably be able to cut through this process about a minute quicker. Okay, so these guys look like they are really melting down pretty good for us. There we go. Okay, so our next step is going to be re-adding the chicken back into our pot so everything works together. So we're going to uncover our chicken, which has been safely hidden by our aluminum foil, and we're going to take them and pop them back in this pan. We're going to nestle them in. So the idea of nestling has a lot to do with this chicken skin again. So we're going to nestle it in so that the chicken skin stays on top so we can stay crispy and not get soggy, but the rest of the chicken is going to melt into these flavors. There we go. And if there are any drippings that fell off the chicken into the pan, don't put them in the pan because they're not built into the level of the sauce. All right, so now we are going to just nuzzle these babies in. We're gonna let them cook for about maybe a minute or two, just so that, like I said, that flavor really gets into the chicken breast. What we're gonna do while we're letting this bad boy just simmer for a second is we are gonna get our plates ready. So I can show you a couple different ways that I really enjoy serving this chicken dish. A couple of plates. Move this out of the way. We are going to get a nice trivet to put this down. Now, if you have a nice cast iron pan like this one, you don't even have to take it out to serve it. It looks beautiful. It's a nice centerpiece. But if you're cooking it in a pan that you don't love so much, you can absolutely slide this out and put it onto a serving platter. All right, so let's turn off our heat. Bring this bad boy right over here. Here we go. Doesn't that look beautiful just like that? Could you imagine that on the center of your table? I could. It looks awesome. And it took us from start to finish less than a half an hour to make. This is a great meal. So if this is all you got today, that's great. You can take one of these pieces of chicken out, you have some spinach, eat the sauce. Here's a one-pot meal just like that. But if you would like to add a little extra, we're going to do that. So we're going to start, we're going to garnish with some basil. If you don't have basil, you could use fresh parsley. That's totally fine. Even some nice tarragon would be nice on here. And maybe about a couple of tablespoons. I'm a huge fan of fresh basil, so I just dump as much on there as I want. We are going to start. Our first option is a nice light option. It's for all my keto friends out there. We're just sauteed some extra spinach and some olive oil, garlic, salt, pepper. We're going to take a nice big bunch, pop it on this plate, put it in the center, and then we are going to take one of our chicken breasts, put it right on top. Make sure we get a little bit of everything. We want to grab some of those tomatoes, some of those peppers. There we go. And we have option number one. Our second option is a little heartier. It is a nice do now is we're just going to take a little serving of pasta. We're going to put this, right away. We're going to put it right on the plate. You can also do this in a shallow bowl if you have shallow bowl serving dishes, almost like a soup dish. I don't have those, so we're going to use a plate. All right, there we go. Just going to bring these guys together. Same thing, we're going to pick a chicken thigh. We're going to take it out, put it right on top of this pasta, and then get all the extra goodies and top our plates just like so. There we go. And we have a nice, light, fresh pasta sauce and a delicious chicken thigh right on top of it. So here is your option number 2. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. It's yummy, it is quick, it's one pot if you want it to be, and I think really you can totally cook it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me after I'm done with this segment, and I'm more than happy to walk you through anything that you have to talk to me about. Before I go, I just want to remind you to please take a minute to check out Green Banana Well Packs and our campaign to thank our local healthcare heroes at Ocean Medical Center, www.greenbananawellpacks.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram and help us thank them through my company. All right, stay safe, stay healthy, and I can't wait to see you guys next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m.